Labs. Mr. Animesh, founder and CEO at TagBit. And we have Mr. Satyamurthy Kanul, founder of Secure Machines. Welcome to all the speakers. I hope we'll have a very insightful session, great discussion ahead. So, Mr. Gurish, up to you now. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I think we have a great panel here. We can get into a lot of details about post-quantum cryptography, the migration story, crypto agility. Just to give the context, why this is an important topic today is, as you know, we are getting into a new era of computation, that is quantum computing, and we will have these computers soon, and you can already access some of the computers available, which can do some basic computations, but not necessarily great enough. But it comes with a great computing ability which can solve some of the intractable problems which classical computers cannot do. So that way, but this exponential computing capability also brings in a serious threat to existing cryptography that we are using today, especially the classical public key cryptography. So to address this, we have various solutions. Like these discussions have started in 1994. To be honest, the first time when Shor's algorithm got created. At that time, not anybody was too serious because there was nothing like a practical quantum computer at that stage. But today, it has become a serious topic, and there are various activities going on across the world. Significant investments are going on in this space. So today, what we will do to address this threat, you need to do some key activities. How do you go about from classical cryptography to post-quantum cryptography? And there is another important topic that you keep hearing when it comes to this migration is crypto agility. So these are the two topics that we have put together here, and we'll get into what does it mean, what are the key challenges, how do you go about them, what should the strategy look like, and what possible risks are associated with this, and how should you build that long-term roadmap. So these are the topics we'll touch upon. So for this, we have a great panel here. I'll let them to introduce themselves for 30 seconds, please.
My name is Romit Shah. I am a director at AISS. We are a cryptographic company which works into data protection and data privacy, which are the end use case of the cryptography. We are a manufacturer of HSM and key management solution, which plays a very crucial role in your data protection needs. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Dilesh Sande. I'm CEO and co-founder of 42 Labs. 42 Labs, we actually work on post-quantum cryptography, and we have created a platform called as a PyControl. What a PyControl does is basically it addresses all 5 tenets of security, which is identity, authentication, confidentiality, non-replication, integrity, and even the privacy use case. From the customer segment perspective, we address all 3 segments, which is defense, government, as well as banking, and few of the enterprises. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. This is Animesh. I'm the founder of TagBit Labs. TagBit Labs is a quantum technology company, and we are working on ensuring that your data is safe against all kind of quantum computing attacks. So we offer both hardware and software solutions. Hardware, talking about, is into quantum key distribution to post-quantum solutions, and we are currently, I would say, at the point where we are getting traction, because now the quantum risk is no more only to academic discussions. I think the government around the world is looking at how to ensure that they're able to safely migrate. So I think this forum is set up for that. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Satya. I'm from Secure Machines. So we are a startup based out of Bangalore, and we are into building post-quantum crypto devices and solutions. So primarily, we are focused on building hardware security modules, which are intended to be certified, and we hope to be part of the quantum safe migration ecosystem moving forward.
Thanks. Now I think let's start with Satya himself because he's kind of at a stage. So can you tell me what you exactly mean when we say post-quantum PQC transition? Why should any company care about it? Because most of the times you hear quantum computers are more 10 years away, so many years away from really breaking the current encryption. So why should anyone care about it? What is this transition?
So I think maybe I'll just speak a couple of sentences about the whole background, just to set the context to us. So all the security use cases that all of us address in various different business values and products and solutions we build primarily can be broken down into either key agreement use case or digital signature use case, right? And maybe some of them directly asymmetric use case. And where these two cases come in, typically key agreement and digital signature use cases, this is where asymmetric cryptography comes in. And as all of us know, both RSA and ECC, the fundamental math problems, which is prime factorization and discrete logarithm problem for ECC, right? These are two computational platforms, two mathematical primitives that are being used today to build security, and that cannot be breached with a certain amount of effort, right? That's typically how we design all security systems. These two fundamental primitives are the ones that are at threat for from a quantum computer, because they can do this at high speed and kind of a parallel superposition kind of a way. Now, because of this, we had to find new fundamental math primitives that can withstand a brute force attack from quantum computers, right? And there has been work, like Girish said, from the 1990s in academic research, and there are hundreds of mathematical problems and primitives that can be used to build such crypto systems, right? Now, until the quantum computer was not in sight, it was okay. I mean, it could be an academic topic. But now that has become visible, both what we know publicly and potentially what is not known publicly, right? This is the time when we have to make migrations, and we see that industry standardization in terms of NIST and the BSI of Germany leading this, also some efforts in other countries. And this is the time for us to start building these products out. And fundamentally aimed at using new crypto primitives, new math primitives to build crypto primitives, and thereby pushing this change across the ecosystem, cybersecurity, up to cybersecurity, to make the systems quantum safe.
Thank you. Maybe I think now let's touch upon the other topic, just to introduce the topic, that is the crypto agility, right? So maybe I think I'll ask Nilesh that question. What is crypto agility? Because this topic has been there from maybe decade or maybe even longer. The first RFC was there in 2015, 14, I think, where we introduced the protocol crypto agility. But it needs a larger perspective around this topic today when you look at considering the kind of problem we have today. So can you walk us through what is that, what does it mean, and why it is essential, more essential than any time today?
Fantastic. Thank you, Vinesh. It was an interesting question. Although the topic revolves around the quantum computing, but let me basically ask you a question, guys. MD5 collision, heartbeat, right? Poodle attack, and of course now the quantum computing attack. There was a funny thing that happened during Diwali, right? There was a scientist by the name of Edgar, good for us. He kind of declared that RSA 2048 has been broken, right? And with not a quantum computing, but with the quantum algorithms running onto the machines anyway. So what is common across all of these things? Okay, but there is another thing that is there. See, people always ask me questions in English, quantum computing is far away, 10 years, 20 years, right? Nobody has anywhere predicted. Why do we need to migrate, and why do we even need to think about the cryptographic agility? Now, even if you look at the current scenario and the attack vectors that we have seen or I have spoken about, and if you look at the worst vulnerability, what is the top two? Okay, the first one probably is in broken authentication, and the second one is the cryptography, right? So it has already climbed to number 2 in terms of the implementation. So what does it mean? It means that when there is an attack or if there is an incident, okay, you should be able to respond to that incident really, really fast. It is as simple as that. Now, what does it mean? As Satya said earlier, right? So you can break down pretty much cryptography into key agreement, right? Encryption protocols, right? Hashing protocols, 3 or 4 things. So the ability of an enterprise to react to the change in the environment, and change in the environment can happen in the multiple ways, right? A, you have new impending attack vectors, right? B, some algorithms are broken. Now, for an example, let's say hypothetically, we all migrated to Lattice, right? One fine day we decide, boss, no more RSA, we are migrating to Lattice. Now, all of us know probably, right, that lattice is also based on the hard problem, right? You have multiple lattices. And what if something happens? In fact, there was a very controversial paper as well on top of it. So that means what? That means now world is at a stage where there will be a rapid evolution even in the cryptography, right? All of these guys are fantastic panelists. They are all working on new devices and new algorithms, and we are as well. So that means enterprises, and especially the sensitive enterprises, should have an ability to do 3 things. One is rapid change in the keys, right? You should be able to change your keys. The second is rapid change into the algorithms. You should be able to change the algorithms. And the third thing, even the implementation side of it, right? So OpenSSL, we all know, right, what has happened with an OpenSSL. So that means the implementation. So if you are able to kind of take care of these 3 things, saying how do I basically make my organization crypto agile to change all of this without disrupting the operations of my organization, I do believe that we have crypto agile. And of course, there are frameworks and all of that, but it is too less of time to talk about the frameworks and how to go about it. I hope I answered the question.
Maybe I think a few things to add there. So today, when crypto agility means, like most of the people just think about the algorithmic agility, but you should go and think beyond, what the protocol aspects, application aspects, overall architecture. You have to look at it. It doesn't end there. You have to be able to operationalize, deploy, how easily you can do the whole thing. The end-to-end story is what you need to look at when it comes to the crypto agility. So I think going ahead with the same topic, maybe I'll pass this next question to you. So what should be a crypto agile strategy should look like, and what are the essential components of it, and how can any organization start incorporating into their security infrastructure?
Yeah, thank you. So continuing with Nilesh, what he answered on this, it's like how we can and what are the components which are there in crypto agility. So mainly about what Nilesh was saying, and continuing to that, is that we should have algorithm independence. That's the key, that where we can quickly move to other algorithm in our organization, so that we can migrate it, and we can migrate the encryption whatever we have done across in our system. So that's the first thing which we should have in our place as a component over there. And of course, training to our people. So because people are not, our employees or our people who are implementing these solutions, they are not familiar enough with these algorithms or with the protocols kind of thing which is there. So we have to give training and make them come to a particular level, so that they can understand the risk associated with this, what would be the implementation impacts of this. So because there would be definitely, when we do a planning of it, so that the third component about planning and migration activity, there would be risk, there would be downtimes, there would be activities which would make sure. So that's the third component. We have to need to do a planning and roadmap, how we would put across over there. We should also be looking across to the standards, like NIST, common criteria, ISO might also come across over there. So that way, and maybe if we can take it across, if India comes with their own standard kind of thing. So we should look into those standards. So we should keep on looking across standards, try to do testing of this, of the PQC algorithms, try to implement those, implement the current system, so which are there. So we should have the visibility of our cryptographies, or our what we say about non-human identities. So we should have those all the identities which are there in your system, which are not human, but they are identities which makes your like your API keys, your secrets, your certificates, all works on this. So we should have the inventory of it. So we should have the inventory and we should get the inventories of it. So those are some of the component which we look after, so that this would be there where which would make sure that we have the control of the cryptography, which is making sure the data is protected within your organization. And once we have this thing, then we can plan the next step on this.
Sounds good. I think the most important topic which you brought about is the skill aspect. See, as I said, crypto agility as a topic was there, but it's becoming more serious because of this. So many cryptography algorithms are coming in place and all that, and it is not an established practice. The crypto agility, like nobody knows really what are the best practices. We have our, based on our experience, we have put some thoughts there here, but as a practice, you have to build this. This is a very important topic. That's a very good point. Maybe I think Animesh will go with you. Now, going back to the other topic, the PQC transition topic. So, what are the first essential steps if I want to start the PQC transition in my organization? What do you think we should start? Great.
Thank you, Girish. I'll just also set the context. I think that with the advent of quantum computers, I think it's a common misunderstanding that everything is at risk. So if you look at what Satya also mentioned in the beginning, like we are looking only at asymmetric key cryptography, which is majorly used in our public infrastructure. Only algorithms which are used in public infra is at risk. Okay. If you look at the symmetric cryptography or like even the hash functions which are used, they are not at risk. So first, I think any company which is like kind of serious about migrating, the first parameter one has to look at is what is the shelf life of your data. If your data is not meaningful tomorrow, you don't have to worry about. So as long as if your data is actually relevant for the next 3+ years, that gives you the first pointer, which means that this has to be safeguarded. Okay. The next one would be creating a cryptographic bill of materials. Like what are the modules which are being used today? Because there could be so many vendors working with you, and your entire system. You do not have a hold of what is your total crypto asset with you. And then the third point starts with referring to some standards. Like NIST has come with the first standard, which talks about a hybrid migration, which means that what are the sum of the functions which are used today, which has to be stored, because your data harvest is a continuous activity. Even without you realizing, we share so much of data in the public network, and there are also malicious actors which will be harvesting your data. So the third is to actually start migrating at what are the recommendations given, which means to look at what key vulnerabilities you have and start migrating from that point. Post which, of course, you have different kinds of method, and it is also not going to be where you have to you migrate to one algorithm and then you are safe. No, because the threat vectors which are coming because of quantum computing, we are also looking again at which we are looking at the math problem. So classical computers can solve a lot of the things that we use today. Quantum computers are good at a certain specific task, especially when you're looking at optimization problems or doing multitasking activities. Then there is a set of problems which cannot be solved either by a quantum computer or a classical computer. Currently, all the crypto primitives, the math primitives, are actually based on what are the functions which cannot be solved by either a quantum computer or a classical computer, and that's how the 4 algorithms have been tested. But it is a continuous evaluation process where companies have to be agile to look at what are the new developments, because we are living in the times where 2 qubit took about 4-5 years, and 400 has taken just 2-3 years. Okay, so you have to look at what is the horizon of the quantum computing era, and what is the critical data. As I said, that the meaningful data is to be safeguarded, and it is relevant. That's also the thing. All governments, all defense institutions, even healthcare, banking, they are the one holding critical data, and I believe they are the ones who are going to also first transition into post-quantum mechanics. So it is not going to be one set of algorithms, but actually looking at the horizon of quantum computing and also looking at what kind of data it is applicable to, right? And because you have so much of issues of also uh, interoperability, because you have something that you have used but the other party doesn't have. So what you would do in that case, right? So you need to have a common basic infra which is able to address these needs in a larger forum. Right? And you're doing a transaction from US to India. Maybe you're using things in the US, India doesn't have it. So how would you safeguard yourself in that situation? So the public infra evolved over a period of years. It is not something that was done in a day, right? Similarly, the quantum transition also will happen starting from local geographies to expanding globally. But I believe that the step towards is to see things are coming to a common platform, looking at whether there is standard or standard set by India, and then there would be a global a common agreement to use. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there were so many points there. So if I can summarize that, basically understand the landscape and do basic kind of risk assessment to see which are the right areas to focus on and prioritize them, create an inventory of all the cryptographic artifacts, then go on and prioritizing them and build a kind of, that's what I can see, those should be the initial steps. Maybe I think I'll stay with you considering we are on the transition migration topic. Is PQC, the post-quantum cryptography approach, is the only approach, only solution possible for this to address this threat? Or is there any other solution or a technology one can consider?
So, I mean, as a company, we are, also addressing alternative technologies, but one has to also look at, as I said, that when you say quantum safe, the pre-quantums are asymmetric cryptography. So that is not going to go forward. That's period. I think every country either way agrees that this is a problem with the advent of quantum computers, right? So now you're looking at a quantum or a post-quantum method. So quantum actually comprises of having a hardware modules called as quantum key distribution modules, which can be used to share, keys. Okay, and you have the post-quantum methods, which is actually I would say the quantum equivalent of public key cryptography, which can be used, which is mostly coming in the form of algorithms, which can be used to create keys with multiple parties, right? So the objective and the technologies are completely different. So also it is not QKD versus PQC, because what QKD offers and what PQC offers are entirely different. So QKD does not rely on the math problem. Okay, when you exchange a key using quantum key distribution, you rely on physics. You rely that you cannot break the laws of physics. And when you create a key, and if someone is intercepting your data, then you actually can find out in real time. So that is the quantum key distribution technology for you. The eastern part of the world, which we're looking at Japan, China, Australia, India, there's a lot of emphasis on QKD technology, even in a lot of things in Europe. And if you look at the west side, which is looking at a software implementation to start with, which obviously will go to the OEM level as well. If you talk about that, he's also working on the PQC hardware part of it. So that actually will go to, that actually relies on the math problem. That again, looking at a set of problems which cannot be addressed by quantum computer or classical computer. So the next part is actually using PQC for exchanging keys with multiple people. So the way we actually envisage is that you will have secure links, secure networks being safeguarded using quantum key distribution technology. And then a larger forum, which is like, when you have multiple parties, okay, that will be addressed via the software, or the PQC, because you cannot have every hardware change today. You have such an extensive network, and there's so many complications. Even while we are very proudly saying that everyone has to go and change the algorithm, I think all of us, as running the company, we know how hard it is to just change one aspect in that entire ecosystem. Right? So it is also going to be where you have legacy systems in place, and you cannot do anything about it in the next couple of years at least. Right? So the transition time is also long, and one has to also implement both of these techniques. So QKD is actually only used for exchange, like the way and then you will use the conventional cryptography. So it is not like there is a change in the cryptographic side of it. It's just that the way you are exchanging your keys will change, right? As of now, I think NIC has also recommended that use AES 256 at least, right? Because they also see some threats which may evolve in future, right? And there are some other things which they are stopping, like RSA and ECC. These are the primarily two things which are commonly used, and they need to be, kind of transitioned into a quantum safe algo. And the third point, which is specific, is like no matter what we are trying to achieve, you are only as good as your weakest link, right? So the third part would be to look at start building these networks. Like if you look at what countries have been doing, they have been building extensive networks. They're using implementation of PQC is also happening at different levels. Whether you look at L4 to L7, you have to implement a lot of things. So it is you have to use post-quantum and other technologies like QKD together, because their offerings are different. And as I said, like if one of the algos crash, what do you do? Right? It is compromised. What do you do? Right? So you always have to have some way of safeguarding yourself. And we also see some innovation. When we talk to vendors, they're saying that how do you assure that this is not going to be broken? And that is a challenge. Probably I don't have. We can only rely with people who have put a lot of efforts, in testing all of these algos, right? And that is also what you call as the trust part, right? And so there has to be a combination. One need not rely only on one technology, because like the way we do with different applications that we build, we only don't rely on one kind of supplier, right? We have to kind of diversify. So that's also will be applicable to quantum in my on the look.
Sure. So, in summary, basically, PQC is one of the approach to addressing the quantum threat. There is another approach is quantum key distribution, but they are not looking at kind of a competing each other kind of a thing. There is only one use case where there is overlap, that is the key exchange part. The other use cases like authentication, signature, certificates, all those things will still come from PQC. Thanks. Since you mentioned about NIST standards and all that, I think if people are tracking the NIST, the progress, what's happening, just as recently as within the last 1 week or within less than 10 days, they have also issued a guideline saying that by 2030, they will go to deprecate RSA 2048 and all the current encryptions, especially. And by 2035, they will go to disallow. Basically, if you want to claim yourself to be compliant with the new requirements, then you should have completed or upgraded your systems to PQC by 2030. Staying on this topic, Nilesh, maybe I'll ask this question to you. So, what's happening if you look at the world? NIST is leading the global efforts in PQC, and some countries are already adopting, like UK and few countries. And some countries adding their own flavors or their own additional algorithms, like BSA in Germany and some countries like that. And there is a third category of countries where they're coming up with their own standards, like Russia, China, South Korea. They are running this same program. So, what are your thoughts, like what we should do in India? If we should really adopt, customize, come with, like which category of those three we should fall into? What do you think?
To answer your question, I have a question. Okay. How many of you on audience probably just raise your hand? Dual EC, DRBG. Anybody knows what has happened with that? Or a conspiracy theory around this? Okay. Triple DS, probably the cryptographer, so sorry if I'm not asking the right question. But see, these are all of the algorithms which have conspired, and especially with the Snowden that has happened, right? These are all the algorithms which are conspired. I don't know whether, and theoretically proven in certain sense. There are European cryptographers, those are claiming that if you are using a certain algorithms, then probably a foreign nation may have a way to look into it. Okay, now what does it mean for us? See, NIST is an amazing body, standards body, good review mechanism. But to address that question, if we think that we can, we should. And I do believe that our great nation has the capability that we can and we should. Now there are 6 reasons for doing this. Okay, how to remember the 6 reasons? And I am a great advocate of having our own standards, and I'll tell you why. And these are 6 reasons that you guys also should remember. Secure. SECURE. This is the way to remember it. S stands for sovereignty and autonomy. Why should I rely on somebody else to basically dictate the standards to me? Okay, standards are good, but I would want to look into you to see that whether I can incorporate that standards within my country as well, right? E, economic growth. What does it mean again? How does economic growth and the standards? See, I was asking these guys, where do I go for certifying my software or the hardware? Where do we go today? Answer is simple, I will not address that, right? C is a control, right? You should have your own control. Now, there are a lot of claims and counterclaims being made. I don't remember the name of the scientist, probably Girish will remember. That somebody has actually put up a case on NSA and NIST saying that there is not enough disclosure which was done, right? It is keeping my mind. So control is very, very critical. How do I become a crypto agile as a nation? Unless and until I am able to address my own threats, right? In a very fast manner. So that's because the C. U, what is U? U is unique. Our nation has been great, amazing in coming out with digital payment, digital public infrastructure. The world is adopting. Do you guys know how Aadhaar e-signature is done? Okay, fundamentally new thing which has never heard of, right? You sign it, right? You throw away the private key and you keep the public key. Now this is a unique requirement for our nation at that massive scale. I'm just giving one example. There could be multitude of such requirements. So uniqueness is important. Reduce dependence. And we have been all talking about it. That's why Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India, we have been talking, our Prime Minister is talking. We have actually, all of us have the right wavelength to do that. And E is then you actually engage. Engage with the foreign countries to collaborate, and that here is where we are actually creating a vibrant culture here. Okay? So that's the simple answer as far as that is concerned. So even if you ask my panelists, and these are fundamentally amazing work these guys are doing, right? But as on date today, if you have to start a startup in a quantum computing, build a machine, and try to sell to somebody in India, he will say, boss, get a certificate. What is this? Get a certificate from outside entity. Whether we have the capability to do that. So that's my simple answer. We should go for our own standard, and we should all be advocating our own standards. It doesn't mean that I will not adopt what is good in the outside, right? I will adopt, I will analyze, and what if we have our own algorithms as well, which are coming from the country? It will benefit our country.
Sure. So nice perspective. It has a lot of going on. I can imagine there are so many things that has to follow if we want to go with that. Maybe I think he seems to have some. Yeah.
No, I totally agree with Nilesh. I think that while we have our capabilities, somehow we have not been at the forefronts of making standards. And if you look in the last at least 5-6 decades, US has dominated the entire world through their standards. Okay, and I don't see a reason that why we cannot come up with a standard to address the requirement of the country, right? While we, globally, you will have to adapt to a common platform. Like, we have different integration and standardization for different technologies, right? And the second point is that, is that the readiness. The readiness actually, if you look at other countries, they have actually looked at the problem at least 2 decades ago. Like if you look at the NIST effort, the standardization which has come now, it started back in 2015-16, right? And it has taken about close to a decade to put forward that hard work and come up with the standards, right? I believe that there is that to make our country Atmanirbhar, I believe we have to come up with looking at what is going to happen in the next decade or 2 or more, right? Not like addressing the current. Now that is like we are looking at other countries. Our approach is more reactive, right? We are reacting that now everyone is changing. So why don't we also address it? Rather than if you look at what the our neighboring countries, like China has been doing, they have been actually looking at every kind of work that can be done. Most of the patents, most of the papers in this technology is coming from there, right? While we can talk about relevant, not relevant, what we are living currently today in the age is the data is relevant for everybody. Every data has become, most 95% of data has become digital. So any country who has the hold of your data, you are just becoming like what you have to, there is a data colonization. There used to be the Britishers going around. Now it is like the data can be held by somebody and your sovereignty is lost. So absolutely, I think that there could not be any other way to put that. So thank you. I'm going to remember this. Secure.
Nice. That's good. I think what I should do, I think I should come to you now. That's a complex topic, okay, which involves a lot of beyond technical things. So maybe Rohit, I think I'll come to you on the PQC transition. What are the essential components of the PQC's transition strategy should look like?
So in terms of strategy, okay, firstly I wanted to thank Nilesh to bring up this topic about the standards in India. And I was also in favor of having those things. And even I wanted to put across this that India has also gone ahead now in terms of doing the labs in India, like which is also referring, which is his product is going to go through and our product is also going for the common criteria test, but of course here in India. So we have set up a lab here in India, which TQC has done and the government has done this activity where we would be able to test the cryptographic modules which we create across here in India. So that has happened and that is happening, and it's because of the government efforts and whatever our people like Nilesh and have put across those things. We have to make sure, of course, definitely go for the standards and those things. If it comes, it is very good for us in terms of that. We don't have to expose our firmwares, our algorithms, our activities to external agencies on this. Coming back to the topic which you were saying across about the strategy and the key components included in this. The first and most important things we should first identify or maybe see the threat which this or maybe the transition is going to put across on our organization. Okay, so we should have the threat analysis done and where actually is going to impact us. That's what the threat analysis will give. So based on that, we would be able to create a roadmap that what can be the migration roadmap for us, and we should definitely go for a modular approach wherein this approach will give us liberty to take or to migrate to any kind of algorithms or maybe also go back and roll back the system. So we would be able to going back. Modular approach will also allow us to go phase wise, test it out. Once we have tested out those activities, we will be able to see whether it is running properly or not, and maybe if it is not running or not, if there are some threats which we have identified, we would be able to roll back. So modular approach should be there in any organization, which would help organization to go into this migration PQC transition and migration activity. We should also look into this protocols like PKCS, KMIP. Those are protocols, or maybe whatever protocols which we wanted to put across, we should look into this protocol so that if we are using a standard protocol in terms of it, so it becomes easier for us to do the migration. And migration, because we work with a lot of banks and governments over there, and in our organization there are a lot of points where we do the encryption. So it is storage, databases, a lot of places it is there. Particularly the encryption, which he said is correct, that encryption is a symmetric over there, so it's not been that worrying for us on this. But the key exchange over there, it's the main activity. When we do a key exchange, it's on an asymmetric protocol. So that's where the transition has to be there on this, and that's what we'll have to identify and then plan across strategy that what should be there, and then across go with the testing of the algorithms. So there are four algorithms which are there, 3 or 4 algorithms which have been passed across right now, given a guidelines kind of thing. Still, we are not there, so that's a threat that we don't know anything. So we need to see that which algorithm is performing good. There's a performance impact. We need to also do, the impact analysis of this performance, and then see across that what can be taken what can be taken further on this, which is convenient. As well as every organization should go for a key management system, which is having a capability of discovering the cryptographic assets. So when you go for a key management system right now at this particular stage, and with the discovery over there, you will be able to keep all the cryptographic inventories with you in a centralized location. This helps organization to smoothly migrate the system. That's where it becomes a key management becomes a very vital piece of the product in this. And lastly, what I bring across the topic earlier is that give training to your people, so that and make them educated about this, so that they can take it further, and then they can also do their impact analysis, and then take this migration activity smoothly. These are some of the components.
Thanks. I think you mentioned a lot of points there. So basically, yeah. So basically, if I see you are looking at the phase-based approach, inventories, experimentations. These are the keywords. So if I can look at them, the roadmap. Maybe I think I thought of few more questions, but looking at the time, maybe I'll see if there are any questions from audience to any panel.
So myself Kishan, I would like to have a question in the layman perspective. So we have multiple guidelines earlier, SEBI, RBI on key management system, HSM. Now it is quantum is more latest we are talking about. How we are going to adapt to tier 2, tier 3 customers. Tier 1 they have all the educations on the quantum. How we are going to bring this to tier 2, tier 3 customers, because we are not creating for this only for the tier 1 customers, correct? So how?
Sure. I think, ultimately, security and what kind of security is used and what kind of systems are used is determined by the criticality of data, right? And the criticality of data can change across different customer profiles. And that is where the customer is the right person to decide certain aspects of when he needs to migrate, right? Of course, this is within the framework of regulation, right? So we expect that in general, there will be migration guidelines for a sunrise, which is to start adopting and accepting post-quantum crypto implementations into existing systems, and a sunset where you have to get rid of all the older cryptography. And this regulation, I believe, again would be structured with probably pushing scheduled banks first, and then cooperative banks. And I think this is going to happen across different industry in different layers. And how it happens is very specific to that industry, and that's where regulators from each of these guys come in. But underlying these are people like the CCA who determine what are algorithms that are legally valid in India today, right? So that is where the push horizontally comes in. So this is probably how I see that it will progress. And so I think this is where I think some discussions with CCA, some of the meetings that all of us also participated in the past, there is clear thought processes on when to start. In fact, the question is industry ready, right? I think so. There are different layers to industry, and if industry is ready, I think they will also start to issue certain guidelines.
Any other question from anyone?
So just one question from my side. So let's say suppose many organizations, they are storing they are encrypting the data, they are storing it
Okay, for 5 years, 10 years. So when we proceed with this PQC, so how you think that should be managed? Because again, decrypting the data, again encrypting with the newer algorithm. So how do you think the organization should take it up further?
Yeah. So, answering to your question, first is that's what my strategy and components were there. So first we have to do the impact analysis, that what would be the threat to us. So basically, see, I'll explain about what we do right now in encryption of the banks. We use symmetric algorithms. So the data which has been encrypted is with a symmetric algorithms over there. But there would be a threat. So like we would be doing with 128-bit AES. There would be a shift which would come to 256, or there would be a shift which would come to 512. Once we go to 2035 or those kind of thing, it might have come to a shift to that, or maybe newer algorithms will come. So this we have to identify that what is the data, how much important is the data. So like 15-year-old data, whether it is really important to have that data, or we have to because the policy also, the DPDP policy or those kind of policies also says that up till what time you should have this data, right? So you might have that regulations will also say that you might have to delete those data and push across in this thing, and this data has to be gone away. Of course, there are different regulations, like RBI would say you should have 10 years or 7 years of data, or those regulations are there. According to the regulators, the data needs to be there, but we might have to do this impact analysis, and then accordingly we'll have to do the shift. And of course, as we say that we should have algorithm independence. So migrating this data would be a job which would happen, but if we have an algorithm independence, we might be able to do it and encrypt, and there can be a migration policy which can be taken across in this. This is what I can say. You might have to add.
Can I add a point? Yeah. So I think the first thing is Romit has mentioned, doing a cryptographic inventory of what you have, what it is protected against. And the second important thing is that ultimately large volumes of data are encrypted with symmetric keys, not really asymmetric, right? So the question there is, how have you arrived at that symmetric keys, right? And if it's a dynamic arrival that you have and asymmetry is involved, that's where there is a threat. Or if you have just, for example, written down the AES key in a piece of paper, as long as you protect it, there is no need for migration for such a use case. Of course, I am making it very primitive. It would not be like this. The other important thing is, mostly, I think all of us have used the concept. I'll use the term. So there's an attack called the harvest now and decrypt later, right? So this is one of the things that's also pushing timelines, which is that they can record transactions of how you are arriving at a symmetric key to encrypt your data from asymmetry, and they can't break it today, right? And your data timeline could be about 10 years. You have to hold on to data for 10 years, right? And once a quantum computer is available, they can go and break this 5 years down the line, that encrypted data that they recorded today, right? And it is still valuable data because the lifetime is for another 5 years, right? So these are scenarios that are also possible, but ultimately it starts with doing a cryptographic inventory on what you have, what is critical, how they are protected, and how the protection mechanisms were arrived at.
I'll just add this 1 minute. I think that in a nutshell, Moscas inequality actually addresses this type of query, which is like if your transition time and your shelf life, if it is greater than the time for the quantum computers, you can bracket between 5 to 10 years, you are at risk. So you should know that if my shelf life is 10 years, you are definitely at risk. Okay, and that inequality actually addresses that. What is the severity? How do you assess your risk? And of course, transitioning to a post-quantum method is going to be CISO's nightmare, because he has to take care of so much of inventories, so much of transitions, of updation of keys, which also needs to be changed regularly. So definitely there is a lot of things, whatever legacy systems we have in place, that also needs to be upgraded.
Sure. I think I'm getting multiple signals to get of a time set. Thank you so much for the panel and also the audience. It's very essential topic. Everyone has to start giving attention to this. Thank you. Have a good day. And I would say if you have more questions, I think people will be around here. Please feel free to reach out and talk to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.